Hello and welcome to our demo of the Epson v850. Now this demo will also cover the one v750 that we have. They're basically the same thing, one's just slightly newer. So you will find these scanners in both 203 and 207 at their respective stations. They'll always be there. Each station should come equipped with two softwares, Epson Scan and Silverfast. Today, we're going to be looking at both the scanner and Epson Scan. So Epson Scan is typically the more introductory software. It will have slightly less rich features than the Silverfast will, but in general it's quicker and it will still get the job done if you're not making massive prints. But before we get to the software, let's look at our buddy first, the scanner. The Epson v850 Pro. On the front you have the power button, which when you go to turn it on, you need to push and hold. Give it just a couple seconds. A green LED right above the button will start to flash and you'll hear some mechanical whirs. That's how you know it's on. You're set. This button up here does some stuff depending on the program you're in. When you get to the scanner, go ahead and open it up. So when you open the scanner lid up, you will have this document sheet here, which is good for if you're scanning papers, teddy bears, anything opaque instead of translucent. And since we're scanning film and that is translucent, we're going to go ahead and remove this. So it just pulls right out. When you go to put it back in, you'll want to make sure the bottom slides in first and then the top goes into these tabs up here. That way it doesn't flop out when you close it over. Take that bad boy out. Instead, what you're going to need are these lovely film holders. They won't be located next to the scanners, but they will be easily identifiable because they'll be in these giant metal racks. Each one should ideally contain 4 different holders. The 35mm, medium format, commonly called 120, the 4x5 holder, the slide film holder. Okay, so on your film holder here, you'll notice you've got these sliding indicators. They're in different positions in each one, but you'll know them by the little sliders. They'll always go square, triangle, square, square, square. And basically what these do is these will change the height of the scanner in relation to the film. So it'll lift it up or lower it down. You will want to be on the triangles 99% of the time. It's the factory recommended, and most of the time it works. Later on in your scanning career, if you feel like your scans aren't as super crisp as they could be, feel free to adjust these sliders, but in the meantime, stick with the triangles. You'll also notice on your film holder, you've got the white triangles here, and they're raised up by these little posts. When you go to load your film holder, you'll notice there are these 2 indentations here with the corresponding white triangles. These are your alignment markers that will match up with your film holder. So when you go to put your film holder in, you'll come in, top post, bottom post, and then lay the holder down. So you'll notice your triangles are aligned and it's sat nice and flat, and that will guarantee you the best alignment for a good scan. To load 35mm film, you'll notice on the back of the film holder, you've got an indicator that the first frame should go here and the last frame should go here. So what you do is you pop open your film gate and you get your strip of film. So you can possibly see here that this is 32 and this is 36. So what you'll do is your end strip here, it will go, and there are 2 little tabs here. This slides under there and then lays down this channel. Along this channel on the side, so on and so forth down, are little black squares that will help keep you from going side to side. So you want to get your film in the tabs down the center channel and then bring your holder down, and you want to try to clip in the center ones because as you'll notice, it will try to fold back up. 35 tends to curl like that. Push it down and you're loaded. You'll also notice here, it will indicate to you what we said before, where basically this is going to go onto the scanner bed. To do that though, first you need to flip it and then put it onto the scanner bed. So load, flip, onto scanner. The 4x5 holder, since it only has one frame, instead gives you an indication of the reading of the code on your film. So you'll notice on this nice sheet of Kodak here, Kodak reads that way, this text reads that way, so you know that this is the correct orientation. So you just lift up the holder, you have stops here and along the sides. So your film is going to go in. I like to try to hold it here with my thumbnail or my nail and then lay it into the sides, and that fell nicely in place there. So then you just take your holder and you go snap, snap, and snap, snap. That was a powerful snap on that one. 120 film is a lot like 4x5 film. You've got text indicator for which way it should read, and so you compare that to your film, which Wilford reads that way, text reads that way. We are all set to go. So like every other film, take this. You'll notice sometimes it'll be a bit sticky, won't pop up. So just kind of hold it by the one that sticks and give it a little jiggle. Usually it'll come right loose. Take your film, again, don't hold it in quite such a fashion, you'll get all sorts of fingerprints on it, but you'll have end stops here and along the sides going down to help you position your film. So you just take that, set it down, and sometimes you need a little bit of help loading your film because it doesn't go in so easy when you've got things like 120 and 4x5, which don't have like good sprocket sides like 35 does. In that case, what you want to get is yourself a nice pair of white gloves, and then you can, not so freely, but it's a little less imperative if you touch your film. Touch it there a little bit, and then hold it in place. And like before, slide, clip, clip, done. And that keeps all the fingerprints and stuff off of it. It does get a little bit of dust on there, but as always, we'll dust later. On the slide film holder, you'll notice you have text indicators for which way to place your slides in. I don't have slides, but you would insert them and match the text. But you do want to be sure that you are using the correct one. It'll help hold the film flat, it'll make sure the guiding lines are correct. For today, we will be looking specifically at 35mm. Before we scan anything though, we need to prep the scanner. The person before you, who knows what they scanned? You don't, I don't. So there could be any matter of detritus on the scanner bed and the scanner upper. So what you need is this non-canned Can Air starring Nicolas Cage. That's a terrible joke to see if you're paying attention. So all you're gonna do, and this will be loud, is just take this bad boy, dust is the greatest enemy to the film photographer in scanning, and dust will come for you. So ideally you want to go one direction, top first, bottom second, because after you blow off the top, it's all going to kind of come down. So you blow down this way, you blow off this way, and everything in one direction. That way you aren't sort of going this way, sort of going that way. If you're sitting in the corner of the room, don't blow towards the corner. The dust is just going to hit the wall and bounce right back. Blow away from the corner. Remember, every bit of dust you can keep off your film now save you hours later in editing, trying to get that dust off digitally. After you've gotten off the dust, the next thing is there might be smudges, there might be grease, people might have came in with their fingers, touched here, maybe they scanned crayons. I've seen it happen. So in that instance, what you're going to need to do is lens cleaner, you got to get from the lab techs, but in every room there should be a microfiber cloth. And typically, the microfiber cloth by itself is good enough. So you just get in there, give it a quick wipe down, give it a once over. Dust again. Much quicker this time as we got the majority of the dust off before. And the thing is, there'll always be dust. Fuck you, dust. Today, as mentioned earlier, what we're going to do is scan some 35mm. So I've moved the other stuff out of the way, but I've kept the necessities. We've got our holder here. Now, this is our second holder, which actually goes to a different scanner we have, different video. The important thing to note here is that it does not have a Newton glass in it, so I can stick my hands right through it. The 35mm holder we're going to be using today, though, does have Newton glass in it. And I would poke it like the last one, but again, you don't want to touch it. That's one of the key things here. Much like the scanner glass, it's going to have fingerprints on it, and that's not a good time. Also, you know what isn't a good time? Dust. You know what that means? What you do is you keep your holder like this as best as possible. What this does is all that dust that rains down from the ceiling, this, lot of space to land. This, lot less space to land. Now we are going to focus on film here, as that is the primary objective of this class. For these tips, you can use them and scan anything else you like. It'll help you, but we're going to focus on film. Today, we are scanning with Epson Scan. Now, Epson Scan can do just as good, technically, as Silverfast, but I find it to be lacking in user interface options and depth. However, it is still a good program, so let's dig in. So what this pop-up means is that the scanner is not actually connected to the printer or not turned on. So go ahead, take a moment, double check your power cables, your USB cables. Oh, yep. Don't know if you can hear that, but that means I forgot to turn on the scanner. So what we're going to go ahead and do is close out of the scanning software. And we're going to have to pause a moment, wait for the LED to stop blinking, and there we go. Okay, so now let's launch Epson Scan. There we go, that's what we're looking for. So, Epson Scan 2, you will notice up here you've got the v800/v850, which is what we've got connected. So that's looking good. Scan settings will give you some rough presets, right? You've got photograph, magazine, newspaper, document. You can pick one of those if you want, but we're going to go ahead and change some settings right after this, and that will nullify these presets, so go ahead and skip that. Underneath mode, you've got either photo or document. Photo is for transparent film, document is for opaque materials like actual newspapers, documents, that sort of thing. We will be in photo mode for this demo. Now, we've got main settings. So, underneath document source, you need the transparency unit. The scanner glass is again for opaque materials. For film, you want either transparency unit or transparency unit with film area guide. I like just the plain old transparency unit. The document type, of course, depends on what you're scanning. As we don't currently offer a color film class, we are going to focus on a black and white negative today. The image type should either be 48-bit color or 16-bit grayscale. And if you really wish, you can scan your black and white negatives in color. There's not really a whole lot of upside to it. I instead am going to stand with 16-bit grayscale today. Now, resolution. The highest resolution the scanner can physically do is 3200 DPI. If you want the biggest, best possible quality, go with 3200. The trade-off is that it will take more time to scan and the files will be big, right? It's understandable, more information, larger files. But storage is cheap and rescanning ain't a great time. Think of how many things you had to dust off to get through here. What you're going to want to do is just scan as big as possible each time, and if you ever want, you can always, in Photoshop or whatever program, reduce the resolution from 3200 down to 300. Now, you will notice here, we've got options well past 3200. Everything past that, though, relies on the scanner to interpolate. So basically, it's inserting new pixels between the actual scanned pixels. And if you want to do that, especially with AI nowadays, Photoshop is the place to do it. It will do it infinitely better than the scanner or the scanner software. Next, we have scanning quality. You get two options here. You get standard or high. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the difference is. I always choose high. It just seems like the right way to go. Below all that, you have color management and thumbnail options, these two right here, but that's a bit beyond the scope of this tutorial. So with the main settings dialed in, we're going to go ahead and hit preview. Over here now, we have various different preview images, but the scanner is possibly making some weird choices on this one. It looks like, yeah, these two look like the proper ratio for 35mm frames. These two do not. So what you might have to do sometimes is go ahead and switch from transparency unit to transparency unit with film guide. It'll say, do you want to continue? You say yes. The preview will go away, and then you've got to click preview again. Okay, this probably looks worse, but this is workable. So make our window a bit bigger here. This extra stuff you now see, as you can kind of tell by the little film strip indicator here, this is the actual holder it's in. So what we're gonna do, this button right here, we'll go ahead and rotate this, which it then looks like these are upside down, so we're going to give it 2 more rotations. Now we're talking. We're going to now pick a picture to work on, and we'll just go with, say, this frame here. What we're going to do is make the initial box just a bit bigger by clicking and dragging to make our box. Then we'll size it out just a touch, make it bigger, and then we'll click the little magnifying glass icon next to the rotate button, and that will get us a more in-depth preview. Alright, so now that we've got this and we can better see what we're doing, now readjust the bounding box. You want to be just inside the image. If you want after, you can always readjust the bounding box again to get the little bits outside the image. But you can see how once we're inside and we've got all that extra film area guide taken away, the automatic settings really can nail in and get us to a pretty decent exposure. But we don't want to always have to rely on auto, or sometimes the auto gets it wrong. So now let's check out the advanced settings. Underneath advanced settings, you've got your options here. But before we can talk about those, we need to discuss scanning philosophy. Your scanning software typically is not going to be as good at processing the files as your Photoshop or other photo manipulation softwares are available. With that in mind, the main goal of scanning is a flat negative that you then edit, the key being to make sure your whites and your blacks are not clipped off. You want the full range of the film, the rest can be done in post. Now, back to the advanced settings. Brightness, contrast, saturation. You know what they do. If you don't know what they do, feel free to ask your professor. You will notice that saturation, because we're in grayscale, is blacked out, so you can't mess with it. But brightness and contrast, you can play with to your heart's content. Underneath those is the more important detailed adjustments. So the detailed adjustments, it starts out with image adjustment, which is color balance. Again, does not really matter since we are in grayscale, but if you're doing color, this would be very important. Over here is tone correction, and tone correction is basically a curves. We're going to go ahead and hit reset. So you can see here that just the flat curves, it takes us back to this dull gray image. Those adjustments were the auto that had kicked on earlier when we first made the bounding box. Underneath the histogram adjustment, you get both the histogram as well as what is essentially a levels editor like you would normally see in Photoshop. Again, you can only do the one channel because we are in grayscale, but as you can also see here, our negative is looking too flat. This is not good in that everything is gray. You might possibly have some blacks here, and you might possibly have some whites over here, but it's hard to say. Instead, what we're going to do is adjust the levels here, probably about there, Okay. And then we adjust our midtone values. This is looking decent. We're gonna call this good for now. We've got a small touch of highlights here. Could possibly go brighter. We've also got the little bit there. We've got the shadows, the backpack, and the pants. The rest of the image looks lovingly flat, just how we like it. So we're gonna go ahead and close out that histogram adjustment. And if you wanted, you can always click the auto back on and let the auto do its thing. But personally, I feel this is a bit too dark. Alright. If you go down and you leave your cursor over the little selection box, you will see that you get little snippets that will explain what the various things do. Unsharp mask will sharpen the image. Color restoration we won't really use because again this is black and white. Backlight correction could be useful, right? You can brighten images in film that are dark due to backlight. Probably not this situation. Descreening is for color only, that's why it's grayed out. Dust removal uses software to help try to remove the dust from the picture. Grain reduction reduces grain and noise within the image. And then digital ice uses an infrared laser in the scanner to remove dust and debris. But again, digital ice can only be used in color film because something about the black and white film messes with that infrared laser. You give any of these that you want a try. You can't really hurt anything because you can always change the option right back. You could scan it both ways and check it out later that way. The only thing I would try to really stress on you is that unsharp mask is usually best left until right before you print. That way you purposely sharpen only what you want to sharpen and only for the output that you're sharpening for. If you're scanning 35mm like we are today, or 120 where you've got multiple frames on a strip, what you can do next is click here, what used to be the zoom in button and now is back to the full document button. What you can do is you can make another frame, right? So we've got this one here. Now we'll say, let's scan this one here. Again, we're going to go just a tad bit big and then we'll zoom in on that one. So again, here it's going to be the same process. We're zoomed in, we crop in appropriately. That's looking pretty good. We're going to go ahead and leave the settings as they are this time. This is just to show you that you can get a second frame and then go back out to the main document. Okay, so we've got this frame, we've got this frame. But now let's say we want this frame here. But we know that this first frame we made was the perfect size. It's the same size we want all of our negatives to be. In that instance, we can hit this little button here, which will duplicate the current frame. And we can just move it on over and place it. Now you would zoom in, readjust as needed, but you know how to do that, so we're going to skip that. And in fact, honestly, thinking about it, I don't like this frame. So what we can do is we can go ahead and use the button right above it to go ahead and get rid of it. Now we're back to these two. And I know I have two frames because if I am ever in doubt, I can look over here and it will tell me I've got two frames. It will also tell me that this is used to select all the frames, but not quite yet. Because you see we've got the dancing ants here, and we can look down here where it says scan count 1, and so we know that even though we have two frames, only this one is going to be scanned. If we want to scan both frames at the same time, you guessed it, we hit select all. But that's not it. If you've got selected all, you can also duplicate both frames at once, or delete both frames at once. So down here, don't worry about the output image settings. With how we set things to start with, you don't need to mess with this. Likewise, mirrored output is best done in other software, but use it if you want. It's right there. So finally, we get down to the crux of the matter. Image format. Now repeat after me. Only TIFF and PNG. Only TIFF and PNG are the ways to save. And in TIFF and PNG, you will only save in 16-bit or 48-bit. The important thing here is you don't want a JPEG. A JPEG can only save in 8-bit grayscale or 24-bit color, which if you look at it mathematically, 24-bit color takes you down from the trillions of colors in 48-bit and kicks you down to just about a little over 3 million. That's a lot of colors to lose. That's a lot of information you've lost, and you want that back. That's why you scan into TIFF. If you want a JPEG, that's cool. After you scan, take it into Photoshop, make you a JPEG. If you don't want to keep this convoluted, lovely looking file name, you have to click on the box and then click on Settings. This will give you a new pop-up box, and you can change the prefix to whatever you want. Today I think we'll call it Scan. And you can also get rid of the hours, minutes, seconds, and the date. If you want, you can institute a file counter, which if you're scanning multiple frames, it will institute a file counter anyways automatically for you. Don't worry about that. So today we're going to stick with Scan, call it good. Now, where do you want to scan to? I always recommend the desktop. The best part is, and you'll notice when I made my window bigger, I kept this little bar here. And that's because as soon as I scan, the picture when it's done will pop up right there. And so as soon as it's done scanning, I can go ahead and check it out, make sure that the scan went off okay before I tear apart my setup. Because it's always easier to rescan while everything's still loaded and put together than it is to check it out later, find out something's went wrong, and then you gotta reset everything up. It's just a good time-saving convenience to scan to the desktop. Speaking of which, we've got our one frame. We still need our second frame, so we're gonna hit select all again, press scan, and that's it. If you have multiple frames, you will get this little counter here indicating the number of frames and what frame you're on. But now you just sit back, take a moment, and wait. Alright, you will now see that Epson Scan 2 needs permission to access the desktop. Go ahead and allow it. Otherwise, it'll freak out. And honestly, I've never clicked don't allow, so I don't know what it'll do, but it'll probably yell at you about how it can't save to the desktop. And unfortunately, because the computers reset and refresh every time they're shut down, you will have to click that prompt each time. And just like that, our second scan is done. You'll notice it will pop up a little finder window for you, so even if it wasn't right here, you've got it right here. So we've got that scan, and that scan where you will notice it did append the file numbers. You'll notice here we've got some dust and some dust and some dust and massive amounts of dust. That one's probably a little hair right there, a little dust, dust, dust. And that's why I can't stress enough to you to properly dust your negatives. Our other scan, ooh, that looks even worse. Look at that bad one. They both look like scans. They both open. We're going to go ahead and call that a successful scanning session. Now, a final recommendation, again, before you shut all this down, go ahead and move this over to whatever external media you've got. Make sure it goes through. Remove your film. Place it over here. Return the film holder to the wire rack. You're going to give the scanner a courtesy little dust off once more. Replace the white top insert. Press and hold the power button until the light turns off. As you can see here, the computer has been disconnected from the scanner. Hit OK. Epson Scan will shut down because it doesn't like not having the scanner attached. And then the ones on the desktop, go ahead and trash them. Empty the trash, and you go to File, Shut Down. And remember, if you have any questions, concerns, maybe something's gone wrong, all you need to do, come find a lab tech. We're typically over there in the office in 225. Just come knock on the glass, ask us for help. That's what we're there for.